everybody, what's going on? It's Bobby and I'm here in Wetzlar, Germany at Leica's headquarters. I'm actually in my hotel room right now because we're here to talk about a camera that, well, it's been announced today. Here it is, the Leica SL2. Now I want to tell you before I even start this video, the hardware is final, but the firmware is still in beta. So I'm just going to give you my lowdown on my initial impressions of how I feel the camera works, some of the things I like about it, some of the things that are not firmware related that I wish were a little bit improved. Anyway, let's get down to it. All right, let's talk about the SL2. Now the SL2 looks very much like the original SL, except there are some minor differences. First off, a lot of the edges have been smoothened out, a little bit rounded, so it's much more comfortable holding the hand. Like the grip doesn't dig into the bottom part of your hand when you're holding it. Also, you're gonna notice that there is a little bit of a difference in terms of the front. Now they're taking design elements from the Leica Flex, the R3, the R4 series, and then they're bringing that into the SL2. So it has a little bit of the nostalgia, that history of Leica into this new camera. So I guess that this design is gonna be around for a while, and look, I got no complaints. It looks really good. Now, if you did see some of the leaked photos and you have seen some of the promotional photos, I can tell you in person, it looks better than those images, okay? It's solid construction, aluminum, magnesium, you've got leather wrapped around it. This is this is the best built full frame mirrorless camera system on the market, hands down. And of course it's Leica, so there is a premium that comes to that. But yes, it's weather sealed, it's durable, it looks phenomenal. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the internals. What's new on this? You got a 47.3 megapixel sensor though, so that is the same number that is in the Q2, and it's also very similar to the Lumix S1R, which I'll talk about in just a bit because I'm sure a lot of you are going to be comparing to that camera, and I actually brought a S1R. I'm filming on it right now actually. So I'll talk to you a little about the comparisons, the differences, and so forth. 47.3 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor. You got ISO 50 up to 50,000. Okay, you've got a better, higher resolution rear screen that is not movable. And I did ask the question why it wasn't flippable or swivelable, and they said, is that even a word, swivelable? But you know what I'm talking about. And they said that actually that was something they were planning on with the SL2, but they realized, you know, they wanted a camera that was robust and durable, and those are movable parts, so they decided not to do it. Fair enough. You got two UHS 2 card slots in this. I did ask why they didn't include XQD or CFast Express, and they said they wanted a continuity from all the other Leica cameras into this. So if you are a Leica owner, you don't need to buy another card. That's a good thing, but also downside is buffering speed might be a little bit when you're shooting at the higher frame rates. I'll talk about that in just a bit. EVF has improved as well. I believe it's 5 point something megapixels, the same as the S1R, but they are using different glass in the EVF versus Panasonic. So the image is a little bit more crisper and a little sharper than you see in the S1R. Also, that goes as well with the rear display, which is touch enabled through and through. The images, when I look at the rear display, are sharp, they're vibrant, they look fantastic. That was one of the issues I had with the S1R, is that I felt that the rear display wasn't that sharp. And sometimes you're looking at the image up close when you're zooming in and you're like, did I get it in focus or not? You wouldn't be able to tell until you put it onto your iPad or your PC. Well, now you can do that on this camera. Okay, you got 5-axis image stabilization in this, which is great. That's carried over from the S1R into this, so you're seeing some of that technology. But we've got the autofocusing system, which has been enhanced. Now, they are using some of that Panasonic technology, but they have enhanced it on their own. And this is something that Leica told me about. They said, look, we have a partnership with Panasonic, that's no secret, but we're also doing things internally to make our autofocusing system better. Now, that is something that is still in beta. As it stands right now, as the day I'm using this, October 16th, it's as good as the S1R. They want to make it even better before it launches at the end of November. So we'll see how the final firmware comes out on that. But you know what? Right now, it's really not bad. It has eye face detect, but it's more face detect than eye detect at this point in time. Okay, looking else in terms of the camera. In terms of size, it looks smaller than the original SL when you put it next to each other, but actually they are the same size. It's just the way the edges are rounded and the way it's designed, it gives it a bit more of a smaller feel to the camera. Batteries are exactly the same as they were before, so if you have batteries from the SL, they are the Q2, they'll fit into this camera, no issues at all with that. And then they also gave us an external battery grip, which I really like the feel of that because it fits well on the SL2. Oh, let's talk about the sensor for a moment, because this is something that is very different than the S1R. Now, in terms of the design of the S1R sensor, it is a 47.3 megapixel sensor, but it has 3 layers of glass. And now Leica only has 2 layers of glass on their sensor, and they've also done some minor tweaks as well. And the reason for this is they said, look, we don't need to add a lot more glass to our sensor to overcome the quality of lens or the lack of quality of lenses that you might be putting on the camera. It's not to say that the Panasonic or the lenses aren't good enough, but Leica feels their lenses are at a certain quality, so you don't need to have so much glass sort of correcting the aberrations or the image on the sensor alone. As a result, from my initial impressions, the images are sharper out of the SL2 than they are of the S1R. Again, I am using the 35 Summicron and the 50 Summicron, the 75 Summicron, so I'm using top-end glass, but I am noticing a difference even when I put those lenses on the S1R. Okay, now I gotta talk about a big thing in this camera that a lot of people were wondering if Leica's going to bring their A game when it comes to video. And the answer is a resounding yes. Up to 5K 30 frames per second. So you have 1080, 4K, up to 5K 30 frames per second. All you 24p fans or 24 frames fans out there, it's in there. It's in there throughout, okay? 120 frames at 1080p. You can record at MOV or MP4. You can do internal 8 or 10-bit and external 10-bit, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what they told me. So I did try the 5K at 24 frames per second, and it's beautiful. Image stabilization is kicked in. You got eye tracking, face tracking. It is all there. And they also have a cine mode, which actually turns the camera more to a cine camera. So what happens is image stabilization turns off. You're in manual focusing, shutter speed goes into shutter angle, ISO goes to ASA, and you're ready to roll. Now, there's a lot of other features we'll put into the video when I do the full review, but these are just some of the highlights that I've learned over the last couple of days. And, Leica, I asked them why they really wanted to put so much video capabilities in their camera. They said, look, we don't make a standalone video camera. We make cine lenses, which you can add on to the SL2, by the way. And I tried that, it looks phenomenal. But we really wanted to give the user a full-on experience when it comes to video, because for professionals, they're doing video and they're doing photography now. And I think they delivered in spades. So if you want to put it in layman's terms, I guess you could say it's a hybrid of the S1H and the S1R, putting Leica's magic, Leica's build quality, Leica's glass into the mix, and that's what you got in the SL2. Okay, so overall, what are my thoughts using the camera for the past 2 days? Focusing is really quick. The image quality is phenomenal. I was really impressed at how sharp the images are, the color tones. You got the new Maestro III processor working on this in the back end of it, so you're really seeing some beautiful tones. You got 14 stops dynamic range. You see it in your images. It's really, really something. I think a lot of us that were here, the one thing that we noticed right away is just how sharp and how detailed the images are, especially when you're shooting peoples and faces and things. It really is something. Low light is pretty decent. Now, they haven't added profiles into the camera as of yet, my testing, so they said low light isn't as good as it's going to be, but they are improving that through firmware updates, I think almost daily or bi-daily. So by the time you get your hands on this camera, you're gonna see some really good low light performance. Besides that, it's quick, it's great. The battery life is fantastic. Video, you're gonna really love. You've got a mic input jack on this now, headphone jack on that, HDMI, you've got everything you need and be a fantastic hybrid camera. Now let's talk about price for a moment, because this is gonna be the one thing a lot of you are gonna ask, and you probably already know it by seeing the announcement. It's gonna come in about 5,990 euro. Now depending on the exchange rate and taxes, that might vary depending on your market. That does put it at very much a premium over other cameras that are similar in terms of specs. And this is something that I did talk to them a little bit about, and they said, look, it's a Leica. We are a premium brand. We are a premium company. We make our cameras in Germany, our lenses in Germany. They are handmade. Yes, they use machines, but they are handmade, hand put together. And I think that means something. I mean, it's like buying a Rolex. I mean, you can buy any watch that'll tell time, but people spend money on a Rolex because it's a Rolex. And the same thing goes with Leica. But I can tell you, they back it up with really good image quality on video and on photography. And I think that if you have the means to invest in this, you're gonna be really happy. Now, in terms of lenses, I got to try the 35 f2, which everyone's been talking about. It is phenomenal. And actually, I talked to Peter Carb, and I asked him if you could recommend one lens to one person, what would it be? And he has an affinity for the 35, but they're all his children, so he likes them all, but he really likes the 35, he said, because of what he was able to do with the size and the engineering inside of it. He was really, really proud of that lens. And the 50 as well. If you haven't tried the 50, do so. Now, these lenses do come at a premium, but if you're not able to get one of those lenses, I have tried the Sigma lenses. You can see that review. We'll put a link in the description below. And the Panasonic lenses, and you're not going to be losing anything. Honestly, they make fantastic lenses, especially the new Sigma L-mount lenses. So you can be okay. But I would say if you have the means, try to get yourself at least one of these Summicrons. You won't be disappointed in the least. Anyway, I'm gonna do a full review later on. I'm gonna go run through its paces. We're gonna do all the Lightroom tests when the DNG files are able to be read on Lightroom and all that stuff. We're gonna push the ISO to its max, push the dynamic range. We're really gonna give you a full run through, but because I have limited time here with the camera in Wetzlar, because it is still a beta firmware, and because Lightroom doesn't have all the profiles for the SL2, I can't do so much with you in this video, but hopefully this helps you in terms of giving you some information on the camera. Any questions you have, hit me in the comment section below. Like always, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Until the next one, take care.